What's up guys, welcome back to another GGF video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at the GeForce GTX 1070 by Inno3D. Now this is an interesting little card. It's been built on a budget. It is a cheap card. It's sort of designed for those ones who sort of want a no-frills GTX 1070 just to get the job done. But before we check out the card, a quick word from our sponsor. With uncompromised performance, the ASRock X299E-ITX AC is the world's most powerful MITX motherboard, featuring not one but three Ultra M.2 slots, two USB 3.1 Gen 2 10GB ports, Intel AC wireless and dual gigabit LAN, 6 SATA 3 ports, and all wrapped up with quad-channel SO-DIMM memory, makes it the only motherboard of its existence. Pair this with an Intel i9 processor for the ultimate powerhouse. For more information, head to asrock.com. Let me get straight to the point here. The Inno3D 1070 X2 is a no frills, no RGB, no extras GPU. Basically, it's a 1070 if you're on a budget. By doing this, Inno3D is able to make one of the cheapest 1070s on the market, coming in at roughly 570 Australian dollars. One standout feature with the card is that it runs a custom PCB. Inno3D has done this to make a much shorter card than your traditional Founders Edition, a good card for say a home theatre setup. Taking a look at the card itself, we see two 90mm fans, and I'd say the overall design isn't going to have people jaw dropping over. Spec wise, the card has a base clock of 1506 MHz and a boost of 1683 MHz. Being a 1070, there's of course 8GB of memory that runs at 8GB. We'll take a look at how the card performs later on. Outputs on the card are quite interesting, with two dual-link DVI-D, a HDMI 2.0B, and a DisplayPort version 1.4 connector. Taking a closer look at the cooling design, the cooler uses two large heat pipes that run the full length of the card. Just to note, there's absolutely no heat sinks cooling the memory on this card. Any cooling will just come from the top fans blowing air directly over the memory chips. Now this isn't a problem, but even a Founders Edition card has heatsink memory cooling these days. VRAM is cooled via its own little heatsink, and it's interesting how Inno3D have moved the VRAMs from the end of the card up to the front. GPU sag on the card is basically non-existent and is helped by having a smaller card. Also, the card does not have a backplate. Powering the 1070 X2 is a single 8-pin PCIe connector, which is the same as on a 1070 Founders Edition. So as you can see, performance is pretty good for a standard 1070. Some other things I want to cover which I haven't covered are noise of the card was actually much more quiet than what I thought. I thought for having sort of smaller fans than traditional coolers, it would have sort of ramped up to be quite noisy, but it's actually really good. So that's another sort of bonus there. In the box, you do get some other little sort of incentives. I'm not sure if it's enough to sway people these days if you get mouse pads or stuff in video card boxes, but it is kind of nice. You do get the mouse pad there, and you also get a copy of VRMark and 3D Mark Advanced, so you got the two keys there. No doubt they're probably via Steam or something. So that's not too bad there. Now, lastly, I want to cover price. I've tried to see if you can get this card in the US. It doesn't look like you can. So I'm just going to have to cover the Aussie folks for the price. Now at the moment, we all know with the current GPU prices, it's really going to be hard to sort of get an estimate price on this and whether or not that is good or bad for the current situation. So at the moment, it's around $629 Australian for this card. To me, I think that's a fraction too high for sort of what this card is aimed for. There's quite a few 1070s at that price, and there's even a few 1070s a little bit cheaper. even ones that come with the back plates and whatnot. So I think this should be just about maybe $20 less, just to make it a little bit more competitive, because as you can see, it is pretty much a no frills GTX 1070. Now, Inno3D does have another card. I can't find it locally anymore. It was sort of a beefier card up from this one. It was a full length card. It had the 3 fans. It was more sort of a silverish color. It even had a fan on the side. It had RGB lighting all over it. I think it had an overclocking button on the where the ports are. It had extra power, all of that. And I think at the time, a few weeks ago, it was only like $15, $20 more than this card. So it's interesting how they can bring out that card for just $20 more than this card. So if that card was still around, I would definitely recommend that card. The only issue or the situation I see where you would go for a card like this is if you're in a small form factor and size was an issue. Because as you saw in the video, this card is much smaller than a traditional 1070. And there are other companies, Gigabyte, MSI, are doing much smaller cards, and they actually are quite competitive in price compared to this one. I think MSI and Gigabyte both have a smaller card than this again. So, so as I said earlier, I think the price has to be just a little bit cheaper to make it a little bit more competitive. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank Inno3D for sending this out to check out, and stay tuned for the next video.